We've got some prime Premier League football in the Chelsea versus Brighton game because the confusion is rife. It's also at a very high level here for us three, because, or certainly for me on a personal level, because who are Chelsea and who are Brighton right now? I thought Brighton were really good. And actually, for a while, we all thought Brighton didn't score goals, but they do, and they seem to concede a lot of goals as well. So much to talk about when it comes to Chelsea and Brighton. Let's start off with Chelsea, because there was that feeling that they had made big strides in terms of the improvement. Was that more down to the spotlight of that Tottenham game and a Man City game, both live on TV, the whole world watching and getting two positive results from that, or did you really feel like they had moved in the right direction? Because obviously the result last week against Newcastle, which was again another difficult game, but a game that was an opportunity for them, they certainly fell by the wayside.
I feel like the Newcastle away, you almost have to discount as a fixture. There's certain fixtures where when you're not in the mood and you're not fully in the groove and you go away from home to Newcastle who are fully on it, that's a game where you go, we could lose that 4-1, we might win it 3-1, but we know it's more likely to be a loss. So I think that one, I don't pay too much attention to that. I go back to the City and Spurs games and go, they were going in the right direction, but there was some sort of like glaring errors in the Brentford game that matched the Newcastle game, where defensively they just don't know what's going on. You've got Thiago Silva making a lot of individual errors, which he's never really done in his career, but I think he's been asked to do more than what he can do at the moment. And then going forward, they're still trying to figure out what's going on. Against City, they managed to score 4. Against Tottenham, they scored 4, but I mean, they were playing 9 men. I think all of these 3 games have certain things that don't allow you to fully analyse each game properly, and that's sort of the stage that Chelsea are at.
I think you could chuck in the Tottenham game and go, they've had 10 men for a long. That's an anomaly. Surely that game as well. So like, how much can you truly attribute to that as well when they've only got 9 men? Let's talk about Silva for a second, because obviously he's having to play in a back 4 here as opposed to previously being in a back 3 with a lot of his time at Chelsea. Do you feel like we're coming to the end of the road for him, or is it just the fact that the end of the road was always there if you're going to play that way? They're not playing. He's getting a little bit overrun there.
He's 39 years old. I mean, at some point, the team could be wonderful, and eventually body will catch up with him anyway. As long as he's gone on for so long that eventually he's going to have a bit of a downward spell. And I think, to be honest, it probably doesn't help when you're that age and the team is that. It's rotating so much around you due to injuries, due to Pochettino trying new ideas and new systems, and I feel like to allow for his body aging, he probably needs that consistency, and he's not really getting that, and that can't be good for his confidence and form. Yeah,
and I guess as the legs got kind of I don't want to use the word disintegrate, but like regress a little bit. Then it's all. But your experience and your mind is there, and that he has been wonderful in the Premier League.
The one thing I would say is, though, in his defence in this case, is Chelsea's midfield do not protect the back line at all. I think they've got a big problem in that area where Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo with Gallagher's just not really working at the moment. I did read some comments about Lavia being close to being fully fit. I think that will help them. But you must look at that and go, he needs defensive help, in the sense of the guys in front of him are just letting balls get played down the side, and regardless of your age, your athleticism, that's going to cause problems as a centre back.
Yeah, one thing I don't even want to do this really, but I can't not say it, is there's been so much talk about, say, Garnacho and players generally, and maybe it's just this era where everything is captured and discussed at such length, but with Garnacho you're thinking, is that the goal where he arrives? People have those goals, like David Beckham for example. There's also those moments where you think of, say, like Gary Neville against West Brom. He speaks about it himself. Like, it was a game where it was over. There was an incident with Thiago Silva in that Newcastle game where what I'm talking about, don't you? Like, and he's in that right hand corner, and he tried to sort of do something a little bit clever, and he falls on his bum. And I watched it and I thought,
it's over, old
man. It hit me a little bit in that same kind of way. I don't want that to be true, because I do really enjoy him. I think he's fantastic, but he does feel a little bit stretched at this moment in time. Chelsea's home form against Brighton's away form is an interesting one, because Chelsea are terrible at home, aren't they?
Yeah, they can't catch a break at home. And I think part of the reason for that is the pressure. Every time they play at home, the home fans are expectant of a good performance, and they can't get a good performance out of them, and then comes the bad result, and then that pressure builds into mistakes and individual errors. And I think they're at the point where, obviously, Pochettino at the start of the season spoke a lot about Nkunku and the system being built around him. I think they have to get him fit whichever way possible, because without him, it feels like they still don't quite know what they're doing. And I think, I speak on behalf of the Chelsea fans, and I could be completely wrong, they would much rather win or draw games 4-4 and 3-3, or like have a go at home and lose the way they're losing away from home, than do it the way they are now, where they're petrified of what could go wrong. And I think that probably leans on the fact that Pochettino isn't sure how to play at home.
Has that been based around the idea or the lack of the central striker being able to put the chances away, or the creation of those chances? What do you think?
There's an element of the chances not being put away, I reckon, because it feeds into confidence of the whole side if you're not taking your chances eventually, and it's easy to become a little bit more conservative. I do think Nkunku would make a massissive difference. Well, we don't know actually. We haven't seen him in a Premier League game yet, but you buy a player of that quality, you expect it to make an impact. And I do think it's mainly the chance issue. The thing for me is that there's so many players there that are so new to Chelsea, and it must be quite intimidating being playing in front of the Stamford Bridge crowd yet. They haven't got that familiarity, they haven't got that relationship between them and the fans, and I can imagine the pressure is quite intense. Yeah,
and I guess someone just to take the chances when they come. Just to say, Nkunku, 20 starts last season, 16 goals, a conversion rate of 22%. You're looking for over 20% to have a solid conversion rate. So he certainly has that. He certainly has scored goals. So did Timo Werner, but time will tell. For Brighton, the difficulty and the rotation that's come from European football, added to the fact that I think even more so than, say, a Newcastle, who are having that first moment back in Europe, Brighton, it is the first moment in Europe, and they've got an iconic group there, playing teams like Ajax. Has that taken their eye off the ball, or is it just the new experience that's been a difficulty, or is it the injuries? Like, have they all led to each other? What do you think's happened with Brighton?
The injury list is, Estupinian, Solly March, two players that De Zerbi swears by, Daoud, Webster, Dunk, Mitoma, Milner, Lamptey, and now Ansu Fati.
And Dunk's suspended, not injured, but he's out of this game.
Yeah, exactly. So that's 12 first-team players out. I think any manager will struggle. But the one thing I would say is, and this is what I want to ask you, is last season we were saying whoever De Zerbi takes out and puts in, they can still play their way. Do you feel like they've potentially been found out now?
I think they're being found out defensively more than anything, because I think they are still scoring goals and still creating chances. And one thing that they do have is, as much as they retain possession brilliantly, they have a lot of dribblers, and actually some of those dribblers being out is obviously a massive problem for them, but the ability to take players out of the game is something that they have always had, and the best elements of them have had that. Adingra has been a great addition, I think, this year in terms of bringing that element of it. When I watched them, I was watching clips of them earlier today, and I was thinking, the goals they concede, there's a bit of it's a bit meek. There's not really the bite there that you kind of want to see, and there's a few moments where you could have been there if you really had that hunger to be there. Like we talk about Newcastle, and they have that. You can see sometimes people play football like this when they go, or like that. Sorry, when they're attacking, you've got the energy, but to go and get back, there's a lot of players don't really want to do that, and I think there is a tiny element of that with this Brighton team, and that leads to them conceding goals.
I do think they'll feel that's down to injuries. Once again, so much of defence is about cohesion, isn't it? About partnership. It's about knowing who's going to press that. And I can imagine there's an element of, are you doing this or doing that? Because how often does that defence play together in terms of that actual system? And I think Brighton will probably point to the injuries an awful lot. There's just too much quality not available. This just sort of sadly comes with the territory of being a European football and so on. But it'll be an interesting game.
Yeah, Brighton are good away from home as well for the most part. They've won 3 of their 6 matches. Prediction time. What are we saying, Nubaid?
I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to say 1-1. I don't expect a classic in this, because I think both teams, although they concede a lot of chances, I just cannot see anything apart from just one of those games where you go, I was looking forward to this. It's 1-1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Guaranteed both teams will score. That's what Brighton do. I think it's 17 games that's happened. I think that Chelsea might enjoy this one, just because I think there will be an element of openness there, and I think they should be fresher as well. I think that's a big part of this one, and the centre-back position is a problem for Brighton. You'll have Hinchelwood, who would probably come in, who is young, inexperienced. The only game he's played is a 6-1. Van Hekken was absolutely fantastic in the Nottingham Forest game, and they needed that victory, so it'd be a big game for him. But I think Chelsea, as long as they can keep the crowd inside and get a goal early doors, I think it will be theirs. Maybe a 2-1. What do you think, Steve?
I'm going for goals. 3 goals apiece. like a crazy game, you know, the kind of second match of the day, you know what I mean?